alive to collect it. Now, most Americans are living to age 80. So we have got not just fewer people paying into Social Security, more people collecting it, but also the demographic issue of people living so much longer. So when people start collecting, now I guess it's age 67 to get full benefits, and they're living to 80, that's just a phenomenon nobody dealt with when Social Security started.
Exactly.
We've got to deal with it somewhere.
Absolutely.
We're here on the Real News. We're with Virginia Foxx, Congresswoman from the 5th District. On our radio program, we'd ask anyone to email us if they had any questions they would like for you to address. And we had one from a gentleman named Buddy, and he says, I commend Ms. Foxx on her stand against pork barrel projects in her district. My question is, are you getting any support for this stand both at home and in Congress? You are doing a good job for the 5th District. We will send you back to Washington.
Well, I'm getting a lot of feedback, positive feedback from the district on earmarks, and some people call it pork barrel, but getting a lot of positive feedback. Obviously, there are agencies and governments who would prefer that we find money in the federal government to help out projects, but I've made the right decisions. Until we fix the earmark system, we've got problems. We've got to fix it.
Do you think the government should get involved in bailouts for homeowners losing their homes, or investment banks such as Bear Stearns? Or do you think people and businesses need to be responsible for the deals they get themselves into, and taxpayers shouldn't bear the burden of their mistakes?
Well, I'm very big on accountability and personal responsibility. And no, I don't think the federal government should be bailing out homeowners. In most cases, people were taking huge risks in what they were doing. You know, it used to be that if you were going to buy a home, you had to pay 10% down. So you had some skin in the game, as they say. And now the government, what's happened is this is one of those laws of unintended consequences. The government has been pushing for years to get people to buy homes, make credit easier. And so we're dealing with the consequences of the government meddling in something it had no business meddling in to begin with. So a lot of people went out there, they were unrealistic in what they could pay back. They bought houses that were overpriced because we had a bubble in the housing market. And so they went out and bought a house, no money down, they have absolutely nothing in the house. They got 100% mortgage, then they run up onto the least little problem. They can't make their mortgage payments, so they just walk away. They have no responsibility for it. They just walk away. The banks are left holding the bag with it. But you and I should not be bailing out people who are irresponsible. It just sends a bad message. When children misbehave, you don't bail them out. And what the federal government's doing is teaching irresponsibility by doing this, and the government should be doing the opposite. Now, it's not a huge number, but when you listen to the commentators on the radio and the newspapers, they're all liberals. And what they want is the government to save everybody. And that's not what we need to be doing.
We're here with Virginia Foxx. I would like to ask you, what's your position and interpretation of the Second Amendment, and what is your view on the current case in the Supreme Court and its potential ramifications?
Well, I'm a lifetime member of the NRA, and I believe that the Second Amendment is as important as any amendment in the Constitution. I believe the founders intended for us individually to own guns and to use them, if necessary, in defense of our government. I think, you know, as I tell students when I talk to them, when this government was founded, it was a very radical idea that individuals had power, not the government. It's a very radical idea. And you've got to remember that most of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, was written in response to the abuses of the English government. And one of the abuses of the English government was they tried to take away the guns from all of the people in this country, because they knew as long as they had weapons, they could fight the British Army. And that's exactly why they wrote the Second Amendment. There's no doubt in my mind why it was written. It isn't just for a militia. It's for us to have a militia and for us individually to be able to protect ourselves from the potential of an oppressive government. And I think that I'm hoping very much that the Supreme Court is going to rule that the District of Columbia has no business writing a law that says people in the District of Columbia can't own guns, because I think that's in direct violation of the Constitution.
When, in your opinion, should we start exiting Iraq, and how should that strategy be carried out?
This is a really, really tough situation. I wasn't in Congress when the Congress voted to go to war against terrorism. We have a major segment of that war in Iraq, and that's why we went there to begin with. But I think that what we have to do is get that country stabilized, get the government stabilized there, and I think that will happen. And I remind, again, I'll go back to my talking to school groups. I remind the school groups that we went to war in 1776. We had the Declaration of Independence. We signed a peace treaty in 1781. We didn't draft the Constitution until 1787, and it wasn't ratified until 1789. So 8 years after we had peace with England was when we ratified our Constitution. It didn't happen overnight. We've asked the Iraqi people to go from being the most oppressed people in the world to coming up with a way to operate under freedom. That's a tough thing to do, I think. I think they've actually done very well, and if you look at their record of bills passing last year, their Congress actually passed more bills than ours did. And nobody's much talking about that, but if you do a count, now we passed a lot of bills, but we named a lot of post offices and buildings. About 9/10 of the bills we passed last year in this Congress named post offices, buildings, bridges, and things like that. So we didn't really do much of substance last year, and the Iraqi parliament did pass a lot of laws. And again, we're asking 3 distinct groups to come together and agree, and they are doing that, and they're doing better than I think we give them credit for, certainly than the liberals give them credit for, because they're always raising the bar. First, they wanted stability in terms of the war. Then they said, but you've got to have the government functioning at 100%. Well, that's not going to happen. But back to the question about withdrawing the troops. You know, we still have troops in Korea. I want to ask folks, we've been out of Korea, the war's been over in Korea for 60 years. We still have troops in Germany. We still have troops in Italy. So it's not like when we end a war, we immediately withdraw. I'd love to take every troop out of all of these foreign places tomorrow and bring them all home. But we know that if we do that, particularly Korea, particularly Iraq, that we will leave unstable situations. And those terrorists, particularly in Iraq, are likely to follow us home. The other thing I would say is an example that President Bush uses. You know, when we were in World War II, the Japanese were trying to kill us. No question about it. After the war, we helped them set up a democratic government. Now they're our best friends. That's what should happen in Iraq. But it didn't happen in Japan overnight, and it won't happen in Iraq overnight. But I believe that those people want freedom and a good government, and I think we'll see that, and it won't come a minute too soon.